Hi YouTube, I'm back again, and you're probably thinking again, Nikki, why do you never get changed? I'll tell you the truth. I record two videos, one after the other. So, today, you've hopefully just seen my 12 months on YouTube video. I still, spoiler alert, I still don't have the box from Coach yet. It'll come when it comes. We can wait for that. You guys don't need to see an unboxing video, eh? Yeah. But anyway, if you're new here, my name's Nikki. This is my channel, Nikki Loves Lux. Lux to me is everything from feeling warm when it's in winter, when you've managed to get an M&S cashmere tracksuit, right through to, let's be honest, actually having a roof over your head and not having to sleep on the street. Sometimes you have to be that honest. I did warn you that I was going to be recording a deeply personal video, and I want to give anyone the chance who doesn't want to hear it the chance to exit the video stage left, wherever way you want to go. But this is a really important one to me that I'm able to share with people. For the last, God, more than 20 years, I've had at times horrific problems with my mental health. For the last year, my mental health has been actually really very good, to the extent where my GP and everyone's really, really happy with my progress, and I'm absolutely ecstatic with it. And I put some of that down to actually being on here, looking after my mind, looking after my body, and looking after just how I feel generally. But what I wanted to do was actually kind of share some of my tips and some of my secrets for how I manage my mental health, but also share with you what caused the most significant mental health issue I had in my life. It's absolutely a story that involves violence, so like I've said, if you want to go on past, please do so. I won't go into all the nitty gritty because you might not want to hear it anyway. You might find it extremely, extremely uncomfortable. So just wanted to give you that option to exit if you want. But let's get cracking. I don't want to keep you hanging. So, a number of years ago, I worked for a very large corporate entity. I travelled quite a lot, even more than I do now with work. And I've got my water here in case I need it today. On one particular trip, I was in the beautiful UK city of Manchester, somewhere that has a very, very special place in my heart, but somewhere that also reminds me of something not so great. So, to give you some background, I'm from an extremely large family. My mum is from a very large family, but she's one of what, 11 kids, something like that. It's something absolutely wild, which was quite typical for a lot of Scottish families within certain religions, and without giving too much away to you. My mum is one of the biggest inspirations of my life. I love her to pieces. She's still with me, so the bad story's not about her, thankfully. But I had a very favourite uncle. I shouldn't really say he's my favourite because I love them all. There's two in particular, but one was better than the other. He knows who he is. He's no longer with us, sadly. But anyway, one of my uncles, sadly, we kind of lost some contact with, and as a family, we were very concerned about. He'd been in a relationship for a number of years with an incredibly warm, loving, just an amazing man. Yes, he was gay. That's P.S. I'm not saying that he's turned straight. It's just that that's just important. It is part of the story. When his partner died, my uncle was very, very upset. This man, the man who was his partner, I felt like he was my uncle just as much as my uncle was. To me, it's never bothered me what anybody's sexual orientation is or anything. I'm like, you be you, just don't hurt anyone. And if you're happy, I'm bloody delighted for you to be quite frank. Um, when that happened, my uncle Michael got really upset after he died and turned to a bit of alcohol and was definitely what you would call a vulnerable person in society. And because he was a bit lonely, he didn't live close to us. He lived down in a place called Croydon, just outside London, kind of South London, so quite a distance away from where the family actually lived. We'd completely lost contact with them. He'd actually since moved to Brighton, and unbeknown to us, well, we did know. I'm kind of getting mixed up on the story, but anyway, I'll go back to that day in Manchester. But it's important to have a bit of background about who he was. Michael was the most gentle soul in the entire world. He would have done everything for anybody. He worked as a nurse, not a registered nurse, but from a support function, so he would be looking after patients, etc. And was always a very kind and very funny man. He changed a lot over a period of time following Henry's death, and the fun memories that I still have of him is arriving at the house at one point with these terrible leather trousers on and a jacket that matched and this ginormous buckle on a belt that he could barely stand up with. But every time he walked, he squeaked, which just made us all laugh. It was like, talk about, midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it. That's how we've seen it. But anyway, I'm digressing because I'm trying to put off telling you what I've got to tell you. So while I was in Manchester, I got a phone call from my mum to say, sweetheart, you need to come home. You know how Michael was missing? Well, we contacted the police. The police broke into his house and they found him dead inside. Now, we don't know how long he was there for. We just know the rough time when they found him. We didn't know what had happened to him, whether he'd just simply died of his own accord or something more sinister had happened. Now, I myself was really upset just at the fact that he was dead, never mind what we actually found out. And the police did say that they felt there was signs of foul play, but his death had happened prior, like before he was found, and they couldn't determine the cause of death for him. And as a result, they were going to have to do an autopsy and like coroner's court, which if you've seen murder type programs or things like that, it's where they have like a kind of a hearing where they determine what the cause of someone's death. Now, at that point, my life just really changed. I was struggling anyway with travelling and being exhausted with that, and this news I think just kind of tipped me over the edge. If you'd asked me at that point how I was feeling, like, did I feel depressed? Yeah. But I probably didn't realise just how bad I was. It got to the stage where I wasn't able to talk very well at all. I could barely communicate with hubby. And he's someone I've known for, God, 25, 26 years. My absolute best friend in the world. And yeah, the fact that I couldn't even talk to him just shows how bad I was. Now, I very quickly realised I should not be at work. And sometimes, you know what, it's actually okay to take time off work. Because I think what a lot of people do is what I did then, I tried to keep going at work until it got to the point where I absolutely crashed to the lowest of lows and I couldn't pick myself up off the floor. Now, when I look back on it now, I think I had a breakdown. I couldn't go out of the house, I couldn't talk to anyone, I completely lost contact with all my friends. I couldn't understand why people in my family weren't so angry about what was going on, and what I didn't realise was they were just dealing with the bereavement in whatever way they could. And we never think about it that way, that people look at things differently and deal with things differently. So while I was off, I went to the coroner's court, and it was at that point that I realised just how bad everything had been. So there was evidence from a range of people, from a man who worked in a supermarket who helped my uncle when he had a fall, who found signs of other bruising and other injuries on him and recorded details. That's why it's so important that you fill in accident forms. Nobody would even think that they could be used in a court case. The police at this point knew who they wanted to speak to. We knew there was someone who'd been in his life that we didn't trust would never met him, probably deliberately. Michael had announced his engagement to this individual, but there was no party, no nothing, all very strange. Michael had also sold his home in Croydon to his ex-flatmate, who's the nicest man in the world. Unbeknown to us, Michael had this individual who was then going to be wanted by the police and some others who basically bled him dry financially. And obviously, he ran out of money at a certain point. And when he ran out of money, you can guess what happened. That's right, he was killed by this individual. The police were able to determine some elements of cause of death due to the number of injuries and the number of bones that were broken. They were able to determine a specific position that he was found in. It was not revealed to the press, and I will still not reveal it now. And they then launched a campaign to try and find the individual. He couldn't be found. He was wherever. What we discovered was he was an illegal immigrant in the UK, and please note this is no means me having a go at illegal immigrants. This is one individual I'm talking about. He entered the UK, we don't know where from. He had previously been found guilty of fraud in New Zealand, was in an open prison, and walked out of the open prison and came to the UK, where he basically had no trace on any system anywhere, so it was like he didn't really exist. Now, this continued for a while. The police absolutely knew who they wanted to speak to, they knew why they wanted to speak to him, and they didn't find him. No doubt due to the nature of who he was and how he was in the country, that made it difficult. There was no bank accounts, etc. And that's what police use frequently, is things like that to help find people in situations of that nature. Now, we were really lucky that about a year, or maybe less than a year later, there was an argument in a park between an older gentleman and a younger man. Due to the volume of shouting, a cop who just so happened to be walking in said park heard the commotion and was a bit suspicious, so he trusted his instinct, and he went over, asked one of the gentlemen his name, and he gave a false name. The cop was convinced it was incorrect, so decided to take him in for questioning. At that stage, they discovered who he was, and his name is Ricardo Pisano. He's also known as Reed, or Brandon Victor Pele, lots of other names. And the police arrested him and eventually charged him with murder. Then after that, you obviously have lengthy court cases, etc., not in a part of the UK where you live. Unfortunately, both my parents and some other family members had to give evidence of the nature of their relationship, which meant they had to go away for quite some time. Now, while all this is going on, after I've been off sick at work, I then got made redundant. I had to start a new job, still with I would class it as quite a fragile mental health position. The court case started and went on for quite a while. The deliberations took what felt like an eternity. It was weeks. Now, the judge did put two different charges. One was murder and the other one was manslaughter. There was a third charge, a failure to allow a decent burial of the body. I don't know if you have that charge in the US or whatever else, but yeah, it's probably the type of thing that was used in the Fred Lewis case, where people were buried in gardens, etc. So the family can't do what they should have at least the divine right to do. The police did say to us they didn't think they would get a conviction for murder because they felt that the premeditated element would be too difficult. What they did manage to get a conviction for is manslaughter, and they got an 18.5 year sentence, which if you're in the US, that probably feels absolutely tiny. And generally in the UK, you'll only serve half of that as well. Yeah. Do you think to kill someone and that's all you get, and the UK taxpayers will be paying for the prison for people? By no means do I believe in corporal punishment. I cannot be that person. I cannot be someone who wants someone to die just because they've killed someone. That's how violence just intensifies throughout the world. I want to be able to forgive, and it's taken me a long time to even try and get there. Obviously, well, all this has been going on. My mental health has been absolutely all over the place. While it was going on, I very much got into the amazing band My Chemical Romance. They have an album that really spoke to me about anger, about grief, and kind of rage, but not that you were going to do anything with the anger, the grief, or the rage. It actually helped me to have somewhere where I could let that emotion out. And I think, along with my husband, they saved my life. Which seems crazy when you think it's music that can save a life, but it absolutely can. Other people who were supremely helpful was my dad. He didn't have a lot of experience, other than he had problems with his nerves. That means depression, but it was back in the day. They wouldn't have called it that. He would have just been put on tablets and left. I absolutely got medication and I got therapy as well. I got that through my employer. I was very, very grateful for that. And that taught me that, it's okay to be angry about this. Stop being so hard on yourself. Accept what's happened and you don't need to be happy about it. But what happened wasn't normal, it wasn't natural, and it was bloody awful. And that to me felt like a bit of vindication. And I know that seems weird to laugh at that, but that's genuinely what happened. I just felt like it was the biggest relief I was ever going to experience in my life. I've since come to remember the happy memories, the jokes, the cuddles, the visits when we used to go and see them in Croydon, and he would say something was a 10-minute walk, and 2 hours later you would still be walking somewhere, and my uncle, who was dead tall, and yes, I'm not, I would be like completely and utterly exhausted. It was also the first time I'd ever been to McDonald's, and I thought it was a pile of crap. That's the type of thing that I can remember from seeing him and from those memories. So that's another lesson that I learned is let go of the bad stuff and actually focus on what's in your control. I also started to concentrate on doing one thing a day that would make me smile. Some days that was getting out my pajamas. Other days it was going out for a walk. Other days it was even going as far as into Glasgow. It was also maybe looking at handbags and other things like that. And they're the types of things that kept me going during what I can only describe as the most difficult thing ever. What advice would I give to me or anyone else going through anything remotely similar? When you're ready, try and speak to someone. That someone can be a friend, a neighbour, a family member, an acquaintance, whoever it is that you feel comfortable with. It could also be a helpline. You might have to go down that route. It took me a long time to even open up to my hubby, who was the person I trusted most in the world and still do. Other things and other tips and hints even and tips that I would share with you. Don't be too hard on yourself. I was the world's worst at being so hard on myself, and I've really worked at that over years now. What I try and remember is As long as I'm the best version of me I can be, that's good enough. I don't need a massive house, all the bags in the world, and to have nice hair to be the happiest person in the world. I don't need to go on exotic holidays. I don't need any of that. All I actually need to be happy is to be happy in myself and surrounding myself with people who love and care about me. And also, food. I also concentrated on little things that made me smile, like going seeing a band, going to see the theatre, going for a walk, going and petting some stranger's dog, which I still do frequently. I'm very lucky that my family that I've got around about me, I've just realised I never even thanked my sister here. My sister was, I can't even put into words what she did for me then. She just scooped me up and done everything I needed from her and was just amazing. Truly, truly amazing. She's a kind person who's very loving and would put me first. And she done exactly what I needed when I needed her. And I'll never be able to repay her for that. What you also get out of something like this is you develop a sixth sense. It's a bit of a, I call it my spidey sense. So like Spider-Man, I can tell when someone's suffering from anxiety, depression, etc. just by speaking to them. My hubby says I've got a gift where people want to talk to me. There's probably an element of that because I could make best friends at a bus stop. That's just who I am. I'll talk to anybody about anything. But I want you guys to all know I'm here if you need to talk. That can be on Insta, that can be on YouTube, you can message me, whatever. I'm here to try and help. I am by no means a medical expert, but the best thing I did to manage the entire situation was open up and ask for help. Once I did, everything changed, and it changed at my pace because it was supremely important that I got the help I needed and also that it went at my pace because you can't force someone to do something they're not ready to. Sometimes people will hold on to these things for years because they're just not ready to deal with it. I'm lucky that I was ready, I got the right help, and that I didn't do anything silly. And believe me, I had it all planned out, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because of my husband. I couldn't do it because of my family. I couldn't do it because of a couple of friends. So I'd already decided it doesn't matter how bad it gets. I might feel that people would be better off without me, but I know they're not. And that's probably the final part I want to say to you today. I'm hoping that what I've shared with you today, you don't feel is too personal. I've not told you all the details deliberately because there's certain things I'd rather keep to myself. But all I'll say is, ask for help. Offer help if you see someone struggling. It's okay to not be okay. It's also good to ask, are you okay? And then to ask again, are you okay? Don't just stop at once, because most people will say yes or fine. Ask, are you really fine? What's going on? How are you doing? Simple things, women, I think, can talk about things at times a lot easier than men can. If you're a man out there that's struggling, look at Andy's man clubs and some other places that you could perhaps go to for help, which are more aimed at men and can really be really supportive to you. And having a mental illness or mental health challenges doesn't define you for the rest of your life. It's like if you've got a medical condition, you've just got it. It doesn't mean that's everything that's about you. You have the power to change you, and you have the power to control how you're feeling, and it will come. I promise you. If I'd spoke to myself 5 years ago, even and said you're going to feel this much better by that point, I would have taken that deal and I would have went through whatever I had to get to that stage. It's now been more than 10 years since all of this happened. What I can tell you is he served his sentence in full. and he's been deported from the UK. And I'm extremely grateful that the UK legal system gave our family some justice. I would also say I was never even remotely tempted to try and get justice myself. I believed in the process, and I know that for some it feels impossible, but try and have that faith if you can too. If you've in any way enjoyed, I don't know how I can say enjoy about this video, but I'm just pleased I've made it through without being totally tears and snorters. I nearly said sneers and I don't know what I was about to say there. But yeah, that just gives you a little glimpse for some of the things that I've had going on in my life, but things that I'm really winning a battle with, and things that every day I look for that thing that brings me joy. And some days that's looking at a pretty handbag. Other days it's just the fact that my hair's actually sitting alright and it doesn't look like a bird's about to nest in it. Or in other days it can be I'm really comfortable in my cashmere and I'm really happy and I feel secure and I feel safe. If you've enjoyed my video, or if you've been touched by my story and you need support, I'll try and put some links in the box for who you can go to for support in the UK and maybe overseas. But always remember, I'm here, I'm ready to listen, and I'm ready to help. And if you feel like I have, just know that you can get better. Thank you so much for watching today. And if you've whizzed on past the bits, that's cool too. But thank you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.